how do you hire? Like, what do you look for when you're hiring for your company?
For us, we look for personality fits, the number one thing. You can teach a lot of things, but we can't teach heart. So you have to have heart for it. They have to really want to do it. They have to want to be there. They have to enjoy doing, what that role is. And then we look at, what's your background, what's your experience. We do tend to look at, we're in PR, so we pitch journalists all day long. And we do like hiring people who have a background in journalism because they understand how reporters think. They understand how producers think. So that's a specific skill set to our industry that makes you more valuable. But more important than all of those things, honestly, it's about personality and finding that right fit. There's a lot of other things you can teach. Yeah.
So on the PR side, how do you, as a startup, what's some advice that you can give a startup company and try and get their brand or their product out there?
I always say keep it simple in the beginning. If you can limit your offering to one product or one service in the beginning, that's a very good idea, not just for marketing, but also for financial reasons, for a lot of different reasons. So try to keep it simple, limit yourself to one product, become the best at delivering that one product, and know what separates you from everybody else. For example, we're in PR, and this is New York City. So there's a PR agency on every single block. We know what we do better than anybody else, and we stick to those specific areas. That's why when I started the company, we narrowed down our offering to just media. That's why later on we narrowed down our clientele to just B2B in tech, finance, and policy. So know who you are, be very clear on it, know who your customer is, be very clear on that, and try to sell just one thing to one person for as long as you can. And it might look like you're leaving money on the table in the beginning, but in the long term, you're actually going to make a lot more money. You're going to grow faster, and it just becomes a heck of a lot easier for managing and building a team.
And so when you said you look for heart,
yep.
Now personality, right?
Yep.
Like how it fits in.
Yep.
What else? Like, is there grit? Do you need like any other? Like,
sure. For us, we're in a stressful industry. You need to be able to handle stress, high pressure environments. Obviously you need to be a team player. It's very cliche, but especially in New York, there's a lot of strong personalities here. You need to be able to play well on a team. But we look for people that can handle high pressure environments, people that are self-starters, people that kind of don't need to have their hand held through the step-by-step. And if you can find all of those things in one person, you're a very good recruiter, because a lot of times you're not going to find somebody who meets all of those things, but you kind of figure out, based on the role you're hiring for, who has enough of the qualities that you're looking for, and then you develop that person along the way. Yeah.
So I narrowed down my product. I know my market.
Yep.
How do I go out and pitch this? I create a pitch deck. Mm-hmm. And how do I get to the journalists? How do I find them? Where are they?
Yep.
Why are they going to listen to me? They get 1,000 emails a day.
Yep. Well, you need two things. You need a good pitch, which we talked about. You need a very good pitch, and then you need to be pitching the right people. So start going online and researching the outlets that cover your space. If you're in finance, start reading. You should be reading CNBC. If you're in tech, look at TechCrunch. But look at the specific reporters who are covering your space. And you'll see names that tend to, pop up again and again, like this particular person covers this specific area of AI. Start following their work, start connecting with them on social media, connect with them on LinkedIn. That's a good way to get their contact information. And then start reaching out, tell them what you're doing, send them a pitch. I would say that, don't hesitate with just starting to send out pitches and building relationships. You don't need to wait until the product is perfect, or the business until you have $5 million in revenue. Just start sending out a pitch, start building relationships, because PR, like sales, a lot of times is a numbers game. It's about repetition, and you're going to need to pitch consistently for a period of time before you actually start getting into TechCrunch or getting into CNBC. So just start researching, learning about reporters, know everybody who covers your space, practice writing pitches, and then just start sending out the pitches. It's a sales process, but don't mass email. try to make an individualized pitch for every person. Otherwise,
don't
you'll get
BCC.
blocked very quickly.
Don't BCC, though?
Yeah, because they do get a lot of pitches. Reporters get hundreds of pitches per day, and you can stand out by being somebody who sends a personalized pitch that brings value, rather than just writing a press release that's 1,000 words long and blasting it out to 1,000 different people. That's the kind of stuff that you don't want to do.
What about like a video clip of me actually speaking to the journalist? Like a link in there saying, hey, I understand this is like 30 seconds. I appreciate your time. I just want to talk about my product. This is what I'm doing. If you're interested, I'd love to discuss further. Was that also?
That's something that we've started doing with our clients, and it does work well. It gets a higher response rate for sure, because it's more personalized. Even though it's a little bit more time consuming to create, if you have, let's say, 10 reporters who are perfectly matched for your niche, it definitely wouldn't hurt to create a video, put it on YouTube unlisted, embed a link in your pitch. Don't send attachments. Most reporters don't open up attachments. Right. But embed a link in your pitch and send it out. It will definitely separate you from everybody else who's just emailing out PR web press releases. Yeah.
So you're also on the policy side, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about entrepreneurship and policies. Like,
sure.
What's going on, domestically, globally, wherever you want to pick up. Because sometimes as an entrepreneur, we don't really know what's going on. We don't know how policies are affecting us.
Yeah.
Until it affected us.
Yeah.
So, would you like to talk about that?
Sure. So we do a lot of policy work advising NGOs and governments and politicians on media, but we're also very active in advocating for foreign policy that's more friendly towards entrepreneurs, especially youth entrepreneurs. One of the great things, and this is particularly true in the US, but it's also global, about the time that we live in now, is that there are so many opportunities for young people that want to start a company, kind of like what I did, but also it's even easier now than it was 12, 15 years ago, because of technology, because of access to education and information. Through YouTube and through Google, we have more access to information today than the President of the United States did 30, 40 years ago. And a lot of times kids are using it to watch cat videos, but they could be using it to learn how to code, or how to learn marketing or advertising or AI, whatever it might be. So just trying to create more awareness around the fact that this tool is there, and young people can be using it to be able to learn a new skill and monetize that skill, especially today where you can monetize almost any skill thanks to social media, thanks to content marketing. So creating more awareness around that is a big focus for us, because the access to information is there, and a lot of people in the US and especially around the world are underutilizing that. There's also more access to markets, because you can sell. Nowadays, we're not just competing with firms in New York, we're competing with firms in LA, but also in Kosovo or Singapore and Tokyo. And you never know which one of those companies is being run by a 15-year-old kid in his parents' house.
Yeah.
So just
it's like you coming back at you.
I know it's all coming. It all goes full circle. Trust me, we've run into it.
Yeah.
So just bringing more awareness to the fact that access is there, and how people can use it. And on a global scale, there's also a lot of issues around culture and around mindset, especially in Europe. Not to pick on Europe, but it's difficult to start a business in Europe because of the culture and the mindset. Even if you're 40, it's difficult to start a business, because there's a lack of trust in new companies. It's very difficult to get customers to do business with you. It's very difficult to obtain the funding a lot of times, both on the debt side and on the equity side. There's less lending because banks don't trust new businesses, and there's less equity in investing just because the ecosystem outside of the US for VC is smaller. So I've spent a lot of time visiting European countries. We work with different governments in the EU, trying to figure out how to break down the barriers around that mindset so that people are more accepting of entrepreneurs, startups, especially younger entrepreneurs, to encourage them to take risks, encourage them, with the fact that if you fail starting a company, which is something we're very good at in America, is if we fail, we're very good at starting another company.
Start right up.
You go out, you start another company. But in Europe, there's a lot of stigma associated with it, and there's also a lot of financial repercussions and recourse associated with having a company that goes bankrupt. Also in Asia and different parts of the world. So just trying to change some of the policy around that, but also some of the culture around it as well, to create a better environment fostering entrepreneurship.
Is there anything that you want to leave these founders today? Any information that you want to share with them? Philosophies, thoughts, books?
Yeah, I would say first, again, to repeat, I would say, start a business where you can sell one thing to one person for as long as you can. Number two would be build a team before you think you need to build a team. A lot of companies, myself included, wait too long to build the team. And then you get to a point where you're so overwhelmed and you're so under-resourced that you hit this wall. And once you hit that wall, it's in some ways it's too late to start building the team, because you're going to start losing momentum with the business that you already have. So start building a team before you think you need one. Simplify your model, and just read. Just don't stop reading. Honestly, because when I started at 15, I went to the library and checked out every single book that they had about marketing and about management, law, everything. And now I read with this podcast, and now you have YouTube. So just keep consuming as much information as you can get. You never know what book or podcast or video is going to lead to either, number one, your next idea, or somebody that you can reach out to for business. So just always keep consuming that information. Always keep learning.
Do you know Gary Vee?
Yeah.
So walking over here, I saw him at a coffee shop down the street. He was actually meeting an entrepreneur that reached out to him to talk about what they were doing. Is there a book or a podcast that you would recommend, or?
We mentioned The One Thing by Gary Keller. I would definitely read that. I would read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It's a book about productivity. I read that when I was 20. That was really big for me with figuring out how to better manage my time. I never realized how much time I was wasting, I would say, until I read that book, and it really helped me optimize my life to scale my company faster. But beyond that, I would say The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Horowitz is a great book. Start with those, and there's just so many great books out there. Look at people that you want to model your life after, and whether they write a blog, whether they have social media, whether they've written a book, just start following their content. Go see them speak, go to conferences, and just see where that leads you, because you really never know what kind of opportunity or relationship that's going to lead to.
Awesome. All right, we're going to open it up to questions. If anybody has, just please raise your hand. Any questions out there? No? All right. Yes?
What would you recommend to your younger self?
There's a lot of things I could say, but I would say overall, be more patient. Because I was, like most founders, very type A kind of intense personality, always wanting to get to the goal as fast as possible, and it can take a wear on your mental health. So I would say be patient, do the right things every single day consistently, do all the small things, and then don't worry so much about whether it's coming into place in the bigger picture. So I think that would be a pretty good piece of advice. Yeah.
Question?
Looking at the current influencers that are influencing PR and marketing, how do you look at the next phase of where that's going?
That's a good question. So obviously over the past 10 years, PR has become a lot more digital, and there's been a lot of good things that have come with that, because it's become a lot more trackable versus using a magazine or TV, where it's very difficult to track quantify leads and traffic and all that stuff. Through marketing automation and digital PR and analytics, we're able to track a lot more. So that's something that's been good up until now. But at the same time, it's becoming a little bit of a double-edged sword, because there's a lot of things in the digital landscape right now that are posing a lot of threats to PR and to marketing and honestly information as a whole, I would say, deep fake videos are a big threat and a big problem that, we think are one of the biggest problems for 2020.
What is that?
So
what that is.
A deep fake video it's basically a doctored video. So what happens is you can take a video of Barack Obama, and you can digitally alter the video to make it look like the subject of the video might be saying something that they never said. And if you Google it, there's a lot. Obama does have a deep fake that's out there. Elizabeth Warren does have a deep fake that's out there. So you can Google it and see, but it's a doctored video that looks very real, that looks like that person, a public figure, saying something that's usually false, inflammatory, what have you. And we're seeing that technology become more and more advanced. So it's becoming more difficult to determine whether a video you see of Obama or of Trump on the internet is actually real. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous to journalism and to press because it just leads to more fake news. It's destructive to democracies. It can interfere with elections. So that's a huge issue that we haven't figured out really how to fully combat yet. But especially going into an election year, it's going to be a big problem for people who work in communications and in marketing, and just societies as a whole, governments. Yeah.
Looking back, I'm sure your growth wasn't necessarily a straight line. Is there anything that you did that you can think back that really enabled you to go through like an inflection point, really accelerate? Faster than you would have been right before that?
Yeah, spending more time working on myself rather than working on the company, which is another kind of cliche thing. Honestly, that was when I was about 20 when I started spending more time optimizing my own habits, my own productivity. That changed everything. The company started to scale much faster, and it was like a hockey stick. And it was because, number one, I wasn't using my time in the most effective ways, and I also was letting a lot of those habits of founders that we talked about before, like the lack of focus and the shiny object syndrome, I was letting a lot of those things run my life, and it was actually hurting the business more than growing it. So once I was able to implement better routines, better habits, and better control my own mindset and mentality, it led to better results for the company. So again, Compound Effect by Darren Hardy was one of the books that I read during that time that really had a big impact. And that, I would say, more than any work we've done on the company, has made a really big difference in our own growth. Because at the end of the day, a company is about the leadership behind it. And spending time developing that team and developing yourself, leading yourself, is one of the best investments that you can make.
Yeah, and to add to that, a lot of times we say you've got to show up. You got to show up every day.
Yep.
But if you show up and you're not ready to show up, you're not ready for the practice of being that entrepreneur that day, what's the point, right? You're not 100%.
Yep. Take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. You got to sleep.
It's tough building a company. It's
is.
tough. Mental health. Now we're starting to learn a lot of this stuff, over the past few years about mental health and how it affects entrepreneurs. But it's really stressful building a company, no matter what age you are, what background you come from. It's difficult. So you take care of yourself. That's more important than the company. And we had two over here, I think.
Here.
I wanted to know, because I wasn't here in the beginning, did you go 100% into your company, or did you do it on the side and then have like a part-time job and just kind of?
So I was in high school when I started the company. So I went 100% into it, only because nobody else would hire me. But what I would say is that there's like this prevailing mindset out there that you have to go all in, burn the ships, burn the bridges. I'm not really a big believer in that. It's especially today with technology allowing us to build companies remotely, to be more productive in less time. I think it's a very good idea to spend some time working, whether it's in your industry to get the experience and the relationships, or just working to get funding so that you're not starving while you're building this company. I do think it's a good idea to do that, and you have to figure out what your own risk tolerance is, and your personality. But overall, I think there's nothing wrong with working a company 9 to 5, working somewhere, and then starting your company at night on the weekends.
Good question.
First of all, thank you for being here. I think this is phenomenal.
Thank you.
A lot already. Secondly, I want to compliment you on closing your first six-figure deal when you were 16 years old.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
I think I was learning how
That was
to.
fun.
It was
Yeah, it was
online.
fun.
It was
I was
through email.
online, and you
Through
never
email.
met the
Yeah.
person you closed a six-figure deal with.
Yep.
I was learning how to drive.
And I met the client for the first time in person when I was 20, and she was like, "Let me buy you a drink," and I was like, "Well, there's a problem with that." And so it was fun, but yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
I actually do have a question. So it just made me really think about what you said later on in your interview about your sales pitch. You said three things. So basically focusing on the co-founders, on the impact you have on society, and the last but not least, this is a specific case study on maybe a successful
Yep.
client, right? So for some
Yep.
of us who are co-founders or just starting out, who don't have that case study yet, and just kind of bringing back a 16-year-old you doing this,
Yep.
reaching out to as many people as possible. I'm sure you were patient, you were in it 100%. I'm just trying to think, if we don't have the first client, how do we really pitch what our value is to people that have never seen us, to everyone out there?
Focus on the story behind the company then. Talk about, whether it's your journey as a founder starting it or, something unique about the culture of the company or what you guys do or a problem that you solve. But focus on the story of the company itself and personalize it. And that's the best way to go about doing it in the beginning when you don't have those case studies. When I was 15 or maybe 16, I did my first press interview about myself. And the way that I got that interview, it was a story in the Long Island Business News. If anyone Googles it, it's still out there, I think. I wrote up a pitch about myself being 15 years old, starting my company, and I faxed it, to 4 or 5 different local newspapers on Long Island. And it was a 2 or 3 paragraph pitch, and it was probably terribly written. I wouldn't even go back and read it. But just talking about, I'm 15 years old, I'm building this company. I probably wrote it in third person. This way they wouldn't know that I was the one writing it. But, just about being 15 years old, starting this company. So focus on, your personal story as a founder. Every founder has some kind of unique experience that they've gone through, building the company or getting to the point where they can build the company, and use that in the beginning to get some momentum.
2 more questions.